when teachers cross the line.
It happens in all socioeconomic classes, all races, all religions, all education levels.
You've seen them in the headlines.
What kind of touching was it?
Now, after a year-long investigation by the News 4 I-Team, there are new protections in place to keep students safe from predators.
When I saw your report, it was like I was hit in the stomach.
What led to the changes, and what you can do now to protect your child this new school year.
The good news is that will not continue.
A News 4 I-Team special report, Slipping Through the Cracks. Here's investigative reporter Scott McFarland.
In just a few days, classrooms just like this one will be filled with students and teachers. Educators have a difficult job. The overwhelming majority of them are hardworking and honest. But there are some bad apples. In one nationwide survey, more than 3 million students reported sexual contact with an adult, commonly a teacher or coach. And a review of state disciplinary records in our area by the News 4 I-Team found dozens of teachers who canceled or had their licenses revoked in recent years. Some slipped through the cracks, keeping their licenses for years even after admitting to misconduct. Over the next half hour, we're going to take you through a year-long investigation and show you how that happened, and show parents what they need to know to help keep their kids safe. It all began with one local teacher in one of America's largest school districts.
Inside Randallstown High School, Baltimore County. Brad Norton taught English. One morning in 2012, a 10th grade student said Norton sexually assaulted him inside the classroom. According to the police report, the 15-year-old said Norton touched him on the chest, beneath his shirt, then touched his penis. Arrested, booked, charged, Norton pleaded guilty to assault and a 4th-degree sex offense in court. The victim's father, whom we're not identifying, said the case had an enormous impact on their family.
Unfortunately, I think people naively assume that educators are there to protect our kids, and far too often we see they're not.
Jennifer Alvaro is a Maryland community activist who counsels sex offenders and has pushed for tougher background checks on educators.
Abuse is relentlessly democratic. It happens in all socioeconomic classes, all races, all religions, all neighborhoods, all education levels.
Thing is, this was no common case, and Brad Norton was no common teacher. He had a secret. Down the road in Virginia. In 2004, he was teaching English here, Hayfield Secondary, Fairfax County Public Schools, but only briefly, because in 2004, he was arrested.
And we found the details are strikingly similar. According to school district records, Norton was accused of rubbing his hands over a student's penis and touching the boy's buttocks while in his classroom. Arrested, booked, charged, Fairfax County Schools allowed Norton to resign. He pleaded guilty to assault, avoided jail time, but was ordered not to work again in a job in which he'd interact with children. In this document obtained by the News 4 I-Team, Fairfax County Public Schools formally notified Norton it would recommend the state education department revoke his teaching license. Doing so would help red flag Norton nationwide in a database called NASDAQ. His license revoked, he'd be unable to work at public schools, not just in Virginia, but other states too. Yet Norton managed to get that teaching job years later in Baltimore County. How? David Foster is former president of the Virginia State Board of Education, which votes to revoke licenses.
Something went wrong for this to happen because the whole system is designed to prevent this happening.
The I-Team found answers inside internal school district memos and emails, which show Fairfax County Public Schools failed to follow through. Failed to send the necessary paperwork to suspend Norton's license to the State Department of Education in Richmond, the agency charged with formally revoking the licenses. The State Department of Education even sent this reminder letter and a handwritten note in March 2005, which said no action, no license revocation can occur until Fairfax sends over the necessary paperwork.
The state has to get notification from the school district.
Correct.
The state says it received no written response. So Norton's license remained intact, and he was not red flagged, not immediately disqualified before he applied for the job in Baltimore County. After Norton's arrest in Baltimore County in 2012, that school district called Fairfax with questions about their former teacher. Shortly after, a Fairfax County schools administrator wrote this email obtained by the I-Team to the Virginia Department of Education asking, "Can you advise if you have any record of a license cancellation for Bradley Jefferson Norton? It is not listed on the agency website." A state administrator wrote back, "No, it was not received, and it would need to be submitted to us by the school division," meaning by Fairfax County Schools.
I'll entertain a motion to revoke the license of Bradley Jefferson Norton. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Not until 2013, 9 years after his arrest there, did Fairfax Schools finally submit the necessary paperwork to the state board to revoke Brad Norton's teaching license. Fairfax County Public Schools declined to answer questions about why Brad Norton slipped through the cracks, instead sending us a statement that, for legal reasons, it can't comment on specific personnel matters and that it's since changed the process it uses for teacher license revocations and now files all of the necessary paperwork to revoke a license in an expedited manner. For weeks, we tried to talk to Brad Norton, but no one answered the door inside his Washington, D.C. home. By phone, he declined to comment. Jennifer Alvaro says she worries his case won't be the last of its kind.
Local communities, you're arguing, sometimes drop the ball.
Frequently drop the ball.
Just don't do what they're supposed to do.
Correct.
After our first report aired, a Fairfax County School Board member asked for a formal review of school license revocations to ensure no other license had fallen through the cracks. The school district told us in a written statement it was unaware of any other similar cases. And 2 weeks after our story, the county's outgoing superintendent, Karen Garza, told reporter David Culver the handling of the Brad Norton case, which happened before her tenure, was unacceptable.
My goodness, absolutely not. And in fact, since I've been here, the minute we have any kind of challenge with any of our employees, which thankfully is very rare, we have great employees, but occasionally we'll have a situation, we hold them accountable and we turn them over to the VDOE to have their license revoked.
How confident are you that no one else has fallen through the cracks?
I'm very confident.
But it turns out she was wrong. As the I-Team kept digging, we found other teachers who admitted to sexual misconduct with students in Fairfax County, yet kept their licenses for years.
To protect his daughter's identity, Richard asked we not show his face.
I feel there's an institutional pattern to sweep it under the table.
His daughter went to West Potomac High in 2005 and reported to school officials her teacher touched her inappropriately, groping her buttocks 10 times. 2 of her classmates accused the teacher too.
She had the least of the problems with the guy. Her friends got it worse.
A school district memo obtained by the News 4 I-Team called the behavior grossly unprofessional. The teacher was charged with assault and fired. Yet the I-Team found Fairfax schools failed to send in the paperwork to Virginia state officials as required to revoke the man's teaching license until 2012, 7 years later. Richard told us he thinks he knows why.
Their image, to keep it out of the news.
You don't think it might have been just an accident or an oversight?
No, they're avoiding transparency.
Not only did we find Richard's case, though, the News 4 I-Team found 2 more cases, 2 more Fairfax teachers who slipped through the cracks. What's more, we found the school district knew about them and didn't tell us the full story.
It took them almost 5 years to provide the paperwork needed to cancel the license of an Annandale teacher who pleaded guilty to contributing to the delinquency of a minor. And then there's the case of another West Potomac High teacher charged with indecent exposure outside a local mall in 2004. Investigators said they found he had inappropriate photos of his female students, of their breasts and buttocks. 12 years after his arrest, his case was found languishing.
It's problematic if any school division has that situation.
And it wasn't found by Fairfax schools, but by Nancy Walsh, an investigator with the Virginia Department of Education in Richmond, who spotted the case while pulling records for our I-Team report.
Is it problematic if licenses are let languishing for 6-7 years before they're revoked?
Definitely. If there is a basis for action against a license and any time passes before the action is taken, that whole interim period is troubling.
We wanted to know why these mistakes were being made over the past decade and asked Fairfax schools to talk to their current superintendent. Instead, they provided us a human resources official.
Do we know why it took years?
I've been here since January. I can't speak a lot to the previous practices. What I can tell you is about 2013, FCPS took a hard look at our processes, and from that point forward, we've been proactive in gathering the information on our end and then sending that to VDOE so they can make those decisions.
Chase Ramey couldn't tell us what happened in 2013 to cause the change.
We're again going through our records again to make sure that we are aware and that we provided all the appropriate information on all those cases. No, we do not believe there's any more of those cases in FCPS.
Would you be surprised if there were more out there we don't know about yet?
Oh, I expect it.
We continue to check every license revocation in the county to find out if Richard is right. If you know of a case we should be looking into, call our tip line at 202-885-4444 or email us at tips@news4iteam.com.
Why is it so difficult to check a teacher's past? parents or students can't easily find out why some lost their license.
Does it surprise you that his teaching license was just canceled?
It surprises me that it took so long.
Just ahead, how Maryland and Virginia are changing the critical information provided to the public. Welcome back to a News 4 I-Team special report, Slipping Through the Cracks. Once again, here's Scott McFarland.
When local school teachers are arrested or accused of sexual misconduct with students, it often makes headlines, as you're about to see with the next case the News 4 I-Team looked into. But what happens to those teachers or their licenses when the cases end? Unlike many other states, it could be almost impossible for the media, parents, or students in our area to find out.
Months after winning a not guilty verdict in court.
When that judge read the verdict of not guilty of both charges, I felt like the world was off my shoulders.
Fairfax County Elementary School gym teacher Sean Lanigan went on TV to tell his side. Lanigan and his wife told a national audience they were shocked when a 6th grader from Center Ridge Elementary accused him of inappropriately touching her.
Of grabbing her boob and her rear end.
And that she made up the story, something a jury had agreed with. After his acquittal, Lanigan began teaching phys ed elsewhere in Fairfax County, at South Lakes High in Reston.
But 7 years after the trial and the not guilty verdict, there is trouble again for the popular phys ed teacher, according to an internal investigation by Fairfax County Public Schools, which was obtained by the I-Team.
In this 2015 report, internal school investigators looked into reports inside South Lakes High that Lanigan had run his finger up the inner thigh of a 15-year-old sophomore, that he was seen by colleagues holding hands with girls, talking to one about a vibrator, calling another his girlfriend, tripping a student, using inappropriate language, and talking to boys about a girl's body parts. The school district memo says Lanigan denied these accusations, but says fellow students or teachers corroborated them. It also says Lanigan admitted allowing students to access confidential files in his computer. According to state records, in July 2016, Lanigan quit. Earlier this year, he formally completed the process of canceling his teaching license with the state, acknowledging he did so in response to Fairfax County's petition to revoke it, based on the findings of the school district investigation. But he did not admit to the allegations.
Does it surprise you that his teaching license was just canceled?
It surprises me that it took so long.
This former student, who asked we call her Sarah, says she first complained about Lanigan back in the 1990s when he was her gym teacher.
What kind of touching was it?
It was mostly in my shoulders or my arms or like huggy.
She says Lanigan made sexual comments.
On your birthday? What did he say to you?
That I should run the mile in my birthday suit.
In phys ed class?
In phys ed class.
In a Washington Post article 5 years ago, Lanigan responded to that same accusation by saying he was joking that the girl had come to class without her gym uniform. Sarah says her mother filed a formal complaint and pulled the girl from Lanigan's class.
It was something that was happening to all the girls.
As a man, I'm glad he doesn't have a teaching license anymore.
Ray Murrow, Fairfax County's top prosecutor, says law enforcement was notified of the new accusations against Lanigan in 2015 inside South Lakes High, but that the families involved did not pursue criminal charges.
We knew that there were some incidents over there. I don't know if we had all the specifics, but I know the police were in touch with some of the families.
Lanigan declined our request for an interview and instead issued a written statement which said, in part, "I have 18 years of experience teaching and I have never inappropriately touched a student. However, after the trial, when I returned to teaching, tension remained between the school system and me, and after 5 years, although I still enjoyed teaching, I decided to move on with my life and surrendered my teaching license." The files detailing what he was accused of in 2015 are kept private in Fairfax County, and only by requesting his records through state officials via the Freedom of Information Act did we learn about the new accusations.
I mean, he was very playful. Yeah.
How so?
Like he would always go up to girls, tickle them, or pick them up, swing them around.
Even the young girl who faced off with Lanigan at trial in court, who's now 19 years old, says she never knew what happened to Lanigan after his acquittal.
Nobody told you he was teaching again?
No.
Nobody told you he was back in front of kids?
No.
Lanigan provided a written statement to News 4 about his 2010 trial, and the woman who talked to us saying there was absolutely no truth to it, and that the girl making the accusations had the opportunity to testify, and her testimony was found not at all credible. In fact, the jury took only 47 minutes to come back with their unanimous verdict of not guilty. So why didn't any of his former students know he canceled his teaching license? We wanted to know, and discovered Virginia, Maryland, and D.C. trail many other states in what they tell the public about teachers.
None of the three post the reasons or the orders describing the allegations that caused a teacher license revocation like many other states do, including South Carolina, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. No way for parents or colleagues to know why a former teacher got pulled. No way to guide if they should talk to their children about whether they were victimized too. D.C. posts no information about licenses pulled we found. Virginia and Maryland post only the names and the dates.
But as you're about to see, that was going to change quickly.
Calls for change after our News 4 I-Team investigation.
If there are teachers who may have committed some type of offense, we all need to know it.
When we return, the information available to you right now to better protect your kids.
How could a Virginia teacher admit to assaulting a student, lose his job, but keep his license for years? Our News 4 I-Team investigation found the local school district dropped the ball in his case, neglecting to send the proper paperwork to the state until years later. But top state officials saw a report, took immediate action to help keep it from happening again.
Amid our News 4 I-Team investigation, Virginia's legislature debated a bill to prevent future mistakes like the one we'd uncovered. Under the old system, school districts didn't have to report alleged misconduct to the state until the teacher was convicted in court, sometimes years later. The new bill would require districts notify state investigators within 10 days of any suspected activity.
There was a recent investigation by NBC4 in my area where they discovered that there were 4 teachers who had actually admitted to sexual misconduct with our students whose licenses weren't revoked.
The bill passed quickly, and Governor Terry McAuliffe signed it into law. It took effect July 1st.
If someone's license needs to be suspended or taken away, other jurisdictions ought to know that we have done that so people aren't moving around.
The governor says the Virginia Department of Education has long had experts on its team to help chase down and help revoke the licenses of teachers who sexually assault students. And he says what the I-Team found in Fairfax, the failure to ensure licenses of bad apples were revoked, was unacceptable.
For whatever reason they decided not to let us know, the good news is that will not continue. We have investigators, and all of us want to make sure our children are safe, and if there are teachers who may have committed some type of offense, we all need to know it.
That's not all that changed in Virginia. The state also approved a budget boost for the Department of Education to help them hire another investigator to chase down future cases of misconduct. In Maryland, state officials made a different change because of our reporting.
For years, the state kept information about revoked licenses hidden from the public. But now Maryland State Superintendent of Schools requires the posting online of teachers who had their licenses stripped, including when and why.
How do you know your child is being abused by a teacher?
Our son actually called us and finally told us what was happening.
When we come back, a local mother talks about the red flags that were there and what parents should be looking for.
It can be a tough talk to have with your child. How do you as a parent know something might be wrong involving a teacher? The mother you're about to meet has a warning for you. Signs she wishes she had picked up on sooner.
You can definitely see that there's a guard and there's a level of being careful that's there about trusting other people.
5 years have passed, but this Montgomery County mother says her teenager is still dealing with the aftermath of being sexually assaulted by a school instructor. We're not showing you her face to protect her child's identity.
All of his grades had fallen significantly. He was irritable. He was crabby. He was distant. He was spending more time in his room.
She was surprised to find out the inappropriate touching had been happening for months inside Northwood High School.
Our son actually called us and finally told us what was happening.
That open line of communication between a child and parent is crucial, says James Hitchner, who heads the health curriculum at Frederick County Public Schools.
If it's something you're not comfortable with, please tell someone.
He says that dialogue needs to start happening at an early age, as young as 4.
Even back in the kindergarten curriculum, we inject very early on the definition of private parts. And we don't go into any depth or detail. We just simply remind students that private parts are those parts that are covered by a bathing suit. And the idea that those parts are not to be touched by anyone that's in a non-clinical setting or from an adult or a parent that is not helping you with some type of healthful situation.
Hitchner says those conversations must continue as the child grows, arming them with knowledge about what kind of attention from an adult is appropriate versus inappropriate.
Are they touching you because they're helping you with a physical ailment that you have? Are they touching you because they're giving you personal care?
And empowering kids to follow their instincts and say no to any unwanted touch and to tell someone even if the adult says it's secret.
The bottom line is to be able to tell that trusted adult, I'm not comfortable with this. As a young adolescent, I'm saying no to this. It's not appropriate. I know it's not appropriate. I may need your help getting out of this.
Experts say get involved with your child's activities at school and know the adults they're interacting with on a daily basis. There's much more advice for parents on our website on how to talk to your children about preventing sexual abuse and how to approach your child if you suspect something might have happened. Visit NBCWashington.com and click on Investigations. And the News 4 I-Team wants to hear from you. If something's happening at your child's school we should be looking into, there are many ways to reach us. Call our tip line at 202-885-4444, email us at tips@news4iteam.com, or simply go to our website. We hope this special report helps you start those conversations with your child to keep them safe. For the entire News 4 I-Team, thanks for watching.